Yes, you may declare that you know how to fight a spiritual warfare just because you pray long prayers. You may declare that you know how to fight spiritual warfare just because you use a tough voice, you raise your voice higher, and you declare that you know a spiritual warfare. But look on how you deal with people in life. Look on how you deal with your life normally, physically. Then that life will tell you that if at all you know how to fight a spiritual warfare. Sometimes we are really confused, that sometimes we think that we are spiritual, and sometimes we think we are not spiritual. This is a true confusion that Christians always have. That's why they take prayers and separate them from their lives, that whenever they are praying, they are spiritual, they are living that spiritual life whenever they are praying. But I would like to warn you, you are a spiritual being living in a human body. So you have to know how to fight a spiritual warfare using your spirit before even you think that you are going into the spirit. You already a spirit. By the way, you have to know yourself. And once you know yourself, you will realize that you are moving in a spiritual warfare. You don't just need to go in prayer that you go sideways, then you pray. That's why Paul says pray without ceasing, because he told us that we should live in spirit. Look at this, what I'm saying. The way you deal with people will determine how you fight your spiritual warfare. Because I would like to tell you that the people you are with are the people who are the principalities governed into. So whenever you are dealing with them, that means that you are dealing with the principalities. So it's not a time that you separate yourself, you go for warfare, that you pull down the principalities, you break them down. The only way you are going to break down the principalities when you are not quarreling with your husband. The only way you are going to break down the principalities when you are dealing with people properly. That's how you are breaking down the principalities. Your character will always determine whether you fight a spiritual warfare or either you don't fight a spiritual warfare. So some people declare that they fight the spiritual warfare just because they go around the church and shout with a loud voice that they are fighting a spiritual warfare. At the end, you look at their lives as if they have not fought a spiritual warfare, because their life has not transfigured to what they have prayed for. So I would like to warn you that even though you have not separated yourself away for prayer, you are always in a spiritual warfare on how you deal with men, on how you interact with other people. You are still in a warfare, because the principalities you are talking about, they are governing in men, and even the God we serve is calling us as his ambassadors. So he's governing himself within us. So the fact is that whenever you are dealing with men, you are dealing, sometimes you are fighting against the principalities. The Bible says here in the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 10 says that finally be strong in the Lord and in his might power. And we have to ask ourselves, where does this power work? When does this power function? So we come to understand that this power is at work within us in the way we live our lives. It's not working when we are raising our hands and shouting. Maybe when we are worshiping, that's when the power is at work. That's why I always tell men that the power of God is not only at work on the lame people. The power of God is not only at work on the people who are sick, but the power of God is also at work with people who are suffering from adultery. So even your character should be impacted with the power of the Lord. So you just think that the power of the Lord is going to only work on people who are lame. Actually, other people think the blind need to see. Actually, sometimes we make conferences and we say this conference, the Lord is going to do wonders, that the lame are going to walk. What about the fornicators? What about the adulteries? All those people, the power of the Lord is at work on all. So sometimes you think that the conference has not been having the power of the Lord just because you didn't see a lame man walk. Sometimes you don't see a blind man see, but you have to know that the power of the Lord is at work with any other man in character. Praise the name of the Lord. Believe me or not, you have to know how to fight a spiritual warfare. Not only when you go for a separate service that you think that you have gone to fight a warfare, just because you know when you wake up at 3 you are fighting a spiritual warfare. My dear, even the way you deal with people, that's a spiritual warfare. Although the Bible says that we don't fight with flesh and blood, you have to know that you are a spiritual being living in flesh and blood. So in other words, you don't fight using flesh and blood, but your spiritual being addicts itself or works with the flesh and blood to expose the power of the Lord that works within you. So in other words, we have very many prayerful people. In other words, they pray long prayers, but the way they deal with us, they are not humble. They don't have immunity. They speak arrogantly, so you find yourself that these people fight a spiritual warfare. Which kind of spiritual warfare are you fighting? I would like to ask you, which kind of spiritual warfare are you fighting when you declare that again you are living in fornication? That is not a spiritual warfare. You are fighting a spiritual warfare when you are dealing with fornication. You are fighting a spiritual warfare when you are dealing with adultery. You are fighting a spiritual warfare when you are dealing with any other character that is not of God. I would like to tell you, I love you so much. May the Lord bless you. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you. Bye-bye.